Hello, class. Mr. Fino here. This is Unit 1, Lesson 3 From Hunters and Gatherers to Farmers. In this section, you will learn how the development of agriculture changed daily life in the Neolithic age. So, here you have a couple pictures. You see what the homes might have looked like according to archaeological evidence. On the right, you have, people working in the fields and domesticating animals, that sort of thing. All right. So first we have from food collectors to food producers. The gradual shift from hunter gatherers to farmers is one of the most important advances in human development. Right. So prior to farming and domesticating animals, humans, we hunted and we gathered. We hunted animals. We gathered food that we could eat. Right. Whether that was berries and fruit or grains that we could use. Um, you know, move, becoming farmers instead was a huge step because this allowed people to stay in one place, build permanent shelters, and establish communities. Um, right, staying in one place, building up a larger population, right, and permanent shelters, like you see here on the left, the shelters of Kettle Hayek, um, which we'll talk about. What was the Old Stone Age? So the Old Stone Age was the Paleolithic Age, which began about 2 million years ago and lasted until about 10,000 years ago. Um, so, modern humans developed as hunter gatherers living in caves, right? So, again, that term hunter gatherer, we lived in caves. Here's a picture of some maybe humans or Neanderthals, not sure, hunting a mammoth. Right, here's some berries. Right, we'd have done what we had to do to survive, short of farming. Right, we weren't farming yet. What was the New Stone Age? So the New Stone Age is the Neolithic Age, which began when humans started farming about 10,000 to 5,000 years ago. This happened gradually, right? So it didn't happen all at once, as people grew plants and raised animals for food. And also during this time, humans began making metal tools, right? So our tools started to get more advanced, like you can see here on the left, right? Farming, and then the domestication of animals, right? Using animals for food and other things. But here are some pictures of some of the animals that might have been domesticated early on in human society. So where were the earliest known settlements that we know of? So we know that the first known settlements were located in the Fertile Crescent, which is an area in the Middle East that has or had uh, soil that was good for growing crops. A few of the towns were Jericho, Kettle Hayek, and Jarmo. Um, they could focus. So when they developed these settlements, they could focus on building permanent settlements and larger communities. Right, permanent meaning they stayed there. They didn't go from place to place like they did before in nomadic groups. And people made better tools and clothing and exchanged goods. Um, right, that exchange of goods, right, it allowed them to get things they didn't otherwise have, right, from people around their community. This map here shows where the Fertile Crescent is located. You can see kind of in modern day, um, Israel and um, Afghanistan, Iraq, maybe a little bit into Saudi Arabia, would be some of the countries, Iran, and then you can see in the bottom right how clothing would sort of become more detailed. The beginning of agriculture. So farming and raising animals was more reliable and safe for food than hunting and gathering. Right? If you are staying in one place, you're growing crops, you're raising animals like cows or sheep or goats. That's safer than going out and hunting a mammoth, right? Would be extremely dangerous. People domesticated animals for food and labor. Sheep goats and cattle for their meat and milk, and then using animals like mules to pull heavy loads. So here again, here's an image of hunting and gathering mammoths, which, as you can see here, would be a very dangerous affair. You see a picture of a mule here pulling uh, carrying a pack, and then you can see on the right here some domesticated animals that we have today, from cats and dogs to all the way to things like yaks and camels. How did agriculture change our shelters? So before settling in one place, nomads lived in caves or simple tents, right? Something they could live in, they could just pop up and take down quickly. In their permanent settlements, people built homes from mud bricks, kind of like you see here on the left. Sometimes they added stones and tree branches to strengthen walls and roofs. Uh, this is really interesting that historians believe they entered homes from the top using ladders, like you see in the picture here on the bottom left. And the reason they would have done that is for safety from animals or maybe even enemies, right? If they could, anything they could do to increase their safety. Houses gave protection from harsh weather and wild animals, and then people could also cook food in new ways in these homes. And then the top right here, you see a picture. This is what a tent would have looked like in a nomadic community. And there are still nomadic communities around the world that might live similar to how these earlier humans lived. How did new jobs develop? During hunter-gatherer times, everyone had to focus on finding food for survival. There was no fancy jobs. Everyone just, we need to get the food to survive, right? But in permanent settlements like Kettle Hayek, there were a variety of jobs like farmers, weavers, basket makers, tool makers, and traders. As people could focus on one job, they improved their skills dramatically. So if you don't have to do everything, if you don't have to, you could just focus on your one job and you get better at it, which increases your productivity and how much of it you could make, the quality of your goods, that sort of thing. And then people now wanted to make things in their world more beautiful, such as pottery, jewelry, and special rooms. So then we're going away from just making things for the sake of survival, and now it's more like, let's make some stuff that, using our creativity, making beautiful things. And this picture just shows that the material base of the world economy is the International Division of Labor. Just the fact that you can divide up jobs, you're going to improve the economy. Then we've got the beginnings of trade here. People began trading for resources they did not have in their own area. Traders would find the materials needed to build stronger and more beautiful things. Traders often traveled hundreds of miles by foot, on donkeys, or by ship if they're going over the water. Some traders looked for flint and obsidian to make knife blades, arrowheads, and mirrors. So flint or obsidian would be used specifically for these things. Other traders look for beauty products like shells and a red ore called hematite. And trade also started the exchange of ideas and knowledge, not just goods, right? They traded things like the resources they might have needed, but trade is also how religions were spread and new ideas as well. So you can see here, natural resources. That's how one of the biggest things would have been traded. The exchange of ideas, and then you can see here, traveling over a desert would require camels and other animals. So in conclusion, the summary of the section, this lesson says, in this lesson, we learned how farming dramatically changed our ancestors' lives. And it really, really did. That was what spurred everything else. Without farming, we wouldn't be as advanced as we are today. All right. Thank you.